Thank you once again for joining us here today. My name is Annie Oates, and I'd like to start off with the conversations of the day. So first up, we're going to be welcoming Nicole Stava. She got her BA in Political and Social Science at the Anglo-American University in Prague and Webster University in Geneva. She completed her MA in Cultural and Creative Industries at the King's College of London. And for 6 years worked as a consultant for Middle and Eastern Europe at Christie's, and continues working as an independent consultant at Christie's. She has experience in the international art market and also manages and maintains a large family collection of old masterpieces, Impressionist and modern art, contemporary art, and furniture collections in the Czech Republic and Switzerland. Alongside her family, she also runs a hotel, a golf course, forestry hunting chateau, and a Renaissance chateau at the picturesque town of Bechyne in the Czech Republic. She will be paired with Paul Spies, who graduated in art history and archaeology at the University of Amsterdam, and in 1987 founded DAR, an art historical consultancy and organizational bureau that produced many museum concepts, exhibitions, publications, marketing and communication campaigns, and television programs, amongst several others. He's also going back to this as well, and has been an ongoing kind of project that he's been involved with since its initiation. And in 2009 was appointed director of Amsterdam Museum, and has since then led the renovation of the presentations and organization of these museums, alongside partnerships with other heritage museums in Amsterdam. There's been several kind of projects which I'm sure you're going to pick on during your conversation as well. But it was also appointed chief curator of the exhibitions in Berlin in the Humboldt Forum in the Berlin Castle that is currently rebuilt on the museum island and due to be opened in 2019. The pair will be discussing cultural heritage and the kind of availability and the need for it to be addressed and part of communities today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm a mother of 2 children as well, so to add to everything. Let me show you just quickly what we are going to talk about so you have an idea what Bechyne, or the castle resort in Bechyne, is all about, how it looks. You had the introduction about me and Paul already. This is Bechyne. It's a small town in southern Bohemia. It's 120 kilometers south of Prague in Czech Republic. And you can see here with the pointer, this is the castle. This is the whole area with its adjacent buildings. There is a hotel in Bechyne, a golf course back in the woods. And this is how the castle looks like. It's a Renaissance castle with 110 rooms. The main core of our business is, though, forestry and hunting. This is because we have 5,500 hectares of forests in the estate. We have the art collections that were mentioned that we take care of. We have the golf course. We have several accommodation locations, hotels, all in Bechyne, all in the same areas. We have 2 restaurants with a star chef. We have event locations that we rent. We have event management that we do. And this is, again, to come back to the area that we are going to talk about. Castle Bechyne on the left top. Then we have here the granary, so-called. This is the big riding hall. And this is the brewery. It's a closed area, which we now feel after almost 20 years that we are open for public, and we opened the castle in its history, in its long history, for the first time to the public in 1998. We feel now that the exhibition that we have in the castle and the tours that we do there is just outdated, it's outworn. And we also will have the opportunity for the first time in 2 years, that we will gain back the brewery on top. And so we will have for the first time the possibility to make a closed area of it and use all the buildings in the castle resort. This is due to that we have now a tenant there that will move on in its existence. And so we have the unique opportunity to create there something that does not exist in our region, probably in Czech Republic as it is in such format. This is the Castle Bechyne, just to show you a couple of interiors. This is the brewery. This is the granary with its exhibition, or exhibitions that take part there. This is the big riding hall, which seats up to 950 people. Now, this summer, Paul gave us the honor to come to Bechyne and to visit us. And probably we can start with my question to you. What was your first impression when you saw it? It's in total 7,100 square meters of exhibition space that we are now trying to figure out what to do with it.
Well, it's a beautiful place. I don't think this works yet. But my voice reaches far enough. Oh, it works. Fine, thank you. Of course, it is a beautiful place, and it's a beautiful situation, as you can see. But I was also shocked by the amount of work that comes with these buildings, because as you've showed, there is a lot of room, and you should know that. I think you made an estimate on the square meters you have.
Yes, it's not it's 7,100 approximately square meters in the four
okay.
buildings.
So I'm director of
only exhibition rooms.
Yes. So only the exhibitions room you can empty for a concept. Yes. So I'm director of the City Museums of Berlin, and I'm curator in the Humboldt Forum. In the Humboldt Forum, we've got an amazing amount of square meters to make a huge exhibition on the international aspects of Berlin, which is 4,500 square meters. So you've nearly doubled the space, and you are not in the center of Berlin.
In the center of nowhere.
And you just showed that you have 10,000 visitors for the castle, mostly in summertime, and then you showed events, etc. Now, 7,100 square meters and 10,000 visitors, to me, makes the problem clear. We're not talking about huge amounts of visitors. We're not talking about a lot of income. And so the first question I had was, what do you want? And of course, we haven't discussed this enough. And I think you forgot the most important thing in the introduction. Talks. I mean, you want to have talks. You don't want to have, you want people not to stare at the ceiling. And so you should talk too. That's one thing, I believe. We have to take time for a discussion, but we also should talk. And it's exactly what's happening lately, that we try, like, you can't say ping pong, I believe, because it's the wrong name for the sport. But you have to go to each other and talk about what are the possibilities. You know much more than I do about the power that is to be found. I still have to learn. On the other hand, I'm from outside. I've got experience with opening up these kinds of buildings. An important moment was when I had to open up the Royal Palace of Soestdijk in Holland, which had an intermediate period. It's now bought by an institution called the Westergasfabriek, which is a famous place, which was the original example for the brewery, the cultural brewery here in Berlin, the Kulturbrauerei. So an old building given a new task, a new cultural theme, and Soestdijk in an intermediate period was going to open for the public, because once there lived a queen. She was called Juliana, and to elderly people she still is some kind of a hero. So everybody wanted to visit the palace. Now her daughter who didn't like the place, took out all the furniture because she thought it was tacky. So we didn't have anything. We only had the building and it was empty. And still, we managed to have 4 years a guided tour that was sold out month before. Now, this is a queen. So the first thing I was trying to find, who is your queen? And I found Petr Vok. Now, we're not going to tell a lot about him, but believe me, he's somewhat of a character. And he made the Renaissance castle, which is actually on show. And if you make this person somebody who is going to be famous as a star, and how do you do that? That's, of course, the next thing. How are we going to put Petr Vok, well known in Czechia, in the market? Not the castle, but his personal biography, which is exuberant. It's great, but you know, people don't know. So how do you make? And I was suggesting maybe you should invest or try to attract somebody who's making a television series on this and on this personality.
That was made probably the most important event that ever happened in Bechyne during the time that Petr Vok was living there, was his week-long wedding. And after talks with you, we came to the conclusion that this is actually just the perfect event, so to say, to sell this place or to create something interesting there. And there has been already made 2 movies about this, which just plays, you know, into our hands with good cards. But how to do it now? We're talking about only the castle now.
Only the castle. And
but we have 3 more buildings that we somehow want to include in it and make
the other
something
buildings
out of
are
it.
actually the 7,100 square meters that you still want to have a concept for. So with Petr Vok, we are just approaching one market. And I think we can call it the summer market. The people that come from Prague and Brno and from Munich and Vienna on a day trip.
On a day trip, but I have to add, Czech Republic has over 6,500 castles that are public, open for public, most of them. And Czech Republic has some sort of a national sport. Their normal habit on the weekends, if you don't know what to do with your family, you take the kids and you go and you visit a castle. It's very usual. So we do have, I don't know if it's, you know, they love to see how people lived. There is not many castles that are actually in combination today open that would show some sort of contemporary exhibition or something. They really are just eager to see how it lived, how the building, you know, functioned, so to say.
So you mentioned the art collection. One remark, I think in Great Britain you've got the same situation where you have an overload of mansions and former houses in the countryside, and it's managed by institutions, mostly by the National Trust. And the successful ones are the ones where you have a name of a person that is famous on it. And it could sometimes it could be the person that lives there. I don't know if there is anything in your family you could use to make sure, because everybody wants to go and voyeur. Everybody wants to see how the rich and famous live and want to be near the situation. So that is a market. And what we're trying to do today is art talking business. So I'll try to make it commercial, although I'm in charge also of heritage, which is subsidized by the community a lot. So my next thought would be, how can you not so much subsidize or having subsidized other activities, but what can you do with heritage to make it for certain groups more important, and maybe the groups that have a little bit of money to spend? So next thing would be, if you have a place like this and you've got so much room, one of the things you could do, and that is maybe not in summer because nobody works in summer, is that you make this place with the story, with the spirit of the place. You make it a place of inspiration. That's also not very new. There are others doing that. But if you do it very professionally and you have a famous lineup of keynote speakers and coaches, you can sell important days of inspiration and contemplation and mind twist and all kinds of important things for managers to get out of their normal thing, because they're always doing the same thing, and have them, get into another surrounding environment.
Sort of conference center or something?
I would call it not a conference, because conference is talking. I would, and the word participation was already, that was the good thing about, I think, the introduction, that it's, the talk, the talks are participating, but I think participation is the key word of today. People don't want to listen anymore, just listen anymore. They want to go and do something. So a conference is talking, listening. So I would make it a hub of activity, which is totally surprising for people, that they do something totally different. Some men have to chop wood because they lost their connection with their original DNA. And you've got a lot of woods. I mean, so let these managers chop wood. That's just one silly example. But it helps them. And they get out of the normal thing. And this is what you can do also with a building. Like, for instance, part of the Stadtmuseums is the Nikolaikirche. And it's been treated till now, till I came, as only heritage. So there is a storyline trying not to, to be of disturbance to the building. And so nobody experiences anything. And we have to give meaning back to that building, because it was a religious building and everybody was there to experience something abstract, which was very important to them, and it's away. It's an empty thing. And then it was a political place, because the first parliament of Berlin was taking place there, so the city parliament. So it's a very important building, and it's still there if you touch it. Who can do that? Artists can. So next week, in the Nikolaikirche, a huge installation by Shiharu Shiota will open up for the Luther year, making the church totally different and giving people the experience that the building is important to contemplate on, to be confronted with, and to make higher thoughts, so to say, because it's about higher thoughts. What is higher thoughts? I don't know. Everybody experiences, we can't describe it. So I think that the art collection you have should not so much be an exhibition, which we have so much. It should be a trail of inspiration. And you do things with it, and not by showing 100 at the same time, but by showing one at the same time. And doing something into the deep, because it touches people.
But the key word that you just used is experience. People want to experience something. People want to experience more, or that this is at least what we feel, why we want to change everything there, because people are just bored and they don't want to go into exhibition rooms just to see, pale paintings or just the furniture, and with a very simple story that is behind it. They want to experience. They want to smell. They want to hear. They want to touch.
And I think, and that's the good thing about this conference, I think they would like to meet artists. I think they would like to meet people that have a whole different way of thinking about value. And that's, before we start the discussion, the important thing. You are not talking about money if you talk about business. American business, making money, dollars. Because what you earn is little with the income if you compare it with the costs you have. So what you're trying to do is being busy and that's your busyness, to get at least a bit of money back out of what is value. So we're not talking about money, we're talking about value. And that value is not, it's immaterial. I'm sorry, it's art talking business, and you think money, and it's about value, I think. I mean, that is my thing. So I'm just a museum director, I'm not rich, but I've got so much value that, you know, you can't, I mean, and I think this is the role of heritage. Maybe much more than the big names in art where you can make a lot of money if you're a good salesman. But you use it at the end for community work. You, in fact, like, you know, preserving heritage, world heritage, I say, are mostly in charge to give away. And that is something that comes back, but it's not money.
No, it's definitely not. And I think that our family, or at least my sisters who I run the business with, and probably our children one day will understand that actually what we do is we are, on one hand, the core side is the business, the money making, and then on the other hand we have the value, as you say. And we are very blessed that we have these both things, that we can actually combine those and grow, you know, as persons. But what you just said or mentioned, the community is very important. Of course, with such buildings, we could just say, okay, let's close it. We are not interested, or, you know, it's ours. Let's, I don't know, play tennis in the halls or something, which actually the last family who owned it until 1948, before it was state-owned, they actually had tennis courts in those halls. And but of course not, because we want to open it, we want to share it, we want to show, we want to have people, because we love it so much, we want to share what we experience there every day living there, at least for, you know, give the community probably back what they have there, but not only the community within Bechyne, but of course all the people that are interested in such. But how do we finance it? But if we put together, and I am from the business side of the art market as well, how do we calculate such a concept? And when we started to talk about it yesterday with Paul, it was clear, but you can't. It doesn't make sense, you know, it will never generate money. And I said, yeah, I know, but we could try. No, that's never gonna happen, you know.
It's if you build up slowly, this is slow. I mean, you've got fast art and you've got slow art. This is very slow. So
we have next generations that we give it to.
You need your children to go on, and maybe from that nucleus, which you now start with different goal groups, with different products at different moments, you will find out what works and what doesn't work, and then you can make it bigger, and you can also be an example. You could be also a consultant and sit here and talk about how you did it. Later?
One day.
Thank you. So, questions?
So thank you very much for that. Does anyone have any questions from the floor? Yes?
Thank you. Laura here with the Finnish Institute. I have a question. Next year is the year for cultural heritage in Europe. I think the information came out quite late that this year is really going to happen, as I understood. I tried to Google it for half a year and they were still making decisions, but now it seems it's going to happen. Is that going to reflect on your work in any way, in any positive way, in any financial way, or what do you think of these kind of years they do?
I think they're very important that they are there, but unfortunately for us, I think it's too soon. That we're just now starting, you know, to develop this whole project and the whole concept, and the aim is probably, if then the earliest, to implement a starting concept maybe 2019. So next year is unfortunately too short.
What I hope from the year is that heritage is going to be, you know, promoted more by a central organization, but the rest of the work we have to do ourselves. Planning museums takes at least a year, mostly 2 years, because, you know, we have to do research and then find money and then organize everything and then we can open. So yes, it's pretty late. I don't know why. Heritage was there for a while, so they could have thought about it earlier. But of course we're going to do something, because but we have to find partners, because, you know, if we do it alone, nothing happens. So I would like to do something with churches in Europe that open up for public with art, so that the Nikolaikirche is showing that there is a future for heritage. Also, if churches are not used anymore, by people that believe, but that it's not just a touristy thing, but it is still meaningful buildings with new approaches for new thoughts about importance, value, and contemplation. And it's not religious, but it's art.
Great. We have one more question.
Yeah, Nicole, I would love you to tell us about the collection. What is in collection and who did collect and what is the little story behind?
Sure. We have, first there is a big Old Masters collection that came naturally with the castle, so it's for centuries basically collected by also other families that owned the castle before us. Then we, in the course of the past 25 years, we have been collecting Impressionist and modern art. It started with my father. He started all these the modern collections and then the contemporary art collection. So the Old Masters and furniture, the core was already there, but we are still, buying and maintaining the whole collection. And the modern came, it's international art. And part of it is in Switzerland because I'm born and raised in Switzerland. My parents went from Czech Republic in '68 to Switzerland and as refugees. And so we have parts there and parts here in Bechyne.
And it's classical modern.
It's classic modern, it's contemporary, it's Old Masters. It's really the whole range.
Thank you. Thank you very much.